Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, if you can't put your phone away during work hours, this isn't the job for you. You must have your director's permission to enter the building. Sorry boss, I can't come back in, I've been drinking. Oh, we'll sign the register on time. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. If you can't put your phone away during work hours, this isn't the job for you. I work as a direct support person. My company have some serious hate towards cell phone. They used to fire people on spot if they are caught with cell phone. Because of COVID, my company have been suffering badly. They lost about 40% of the staff and roughly half oversights. So they are basically hiring pretty much anyone and throw overtime at anyone who asks for it. But they still are really struggling. It is to the point where they have to have someone pick clients up and bring them to other clients' place because they don't have enough staffs to cover everyone. I work with large amount of clients and am pretty much capable of do almost anything that supervisors can do. I'm also the ones who have trained many other employees. So they often come to me before they go to supervisor. Last week I was working, and I was bored out of my skull as usual. I was working with this client who don't want to do much besides watching TV or playing on his tablet all day. So I was on my phone. One of the managers walked in and sneaked up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. I turned to look at the manager and casually say hi. The manager then act like I was surprised and try to hide the fact I was using phone. I was casually holding it as the manager gave me a long lecture. I told the manager I work 16 hours a day and took on many tasks that I don't have to just to give the supervisor some breathing space. I sure damn as hell am going to use my phone when there's nothing else to do. Manager then smirked and told me to put my phone away and told me I'd have to come down to the office sometime in the next few days. I remind the manager of how shitty some employees were, hours late every day, literally sleeping on job, etc., and didn't got fired. So it is really unfair of them to get all up in arms about me being on the phone. I was told if I can't stay off the phone then this isn't the right job for me. I went and grabbed my stuff then clocked out. The manager was jumping all over the place screaming about how I can't abandon my clients. I told the manager if I wasn't being nitpicking for tiny thing that doesn't affect anyone, we'd not be in this jam. The manager begged me to stay for just a bit so someone can come and take over. I say no. Got in the car and left with manager standing there watching me dumbstruck. A bit over an hour later, supervisor contacted me and apologized for what happened. I was informed that they really need me around and from on and now if anyone come in, as long as I put the phone away, no one will say a word. Since I like my supervisor and am friend with many employees, I don't want to make things harder on them, and I also need money. I reluctantly agreed to come back the next day. But if I ever hear anything about me being on the phone again, I'm gone. Just a few hours ago, the manager come in and saw me on the phone. I just put it in my pocket and got up. We had a short conversation about work issue. Not a single word about the phone was mentioned. You must have your director's permission to enter the building. Hi everyone, I recently executed a bit of malicious compliance that I thought I'd share with you. During COVID we haven't been able to regularly access our office, and have instead had to work from home. Most of my team are field-based anyway, so it hasn't been a huge problem. Next to our main office is a workshop/storage area that is managed and accessed only by my team. We use this to store equipment and materials and carry out some work in there. Typically 1 or 2 team members will be there each day, though it could be as many as 5. If staff are collecting and dropping off equipment they might need 2 or more visits per day. On the rare occasion we do need to go into the main office, we have to get permission from a director. We would normally do this a few days in advance once we had a piece of work that required access. Without this permission, security won't let us in. As the offices are in a city center location, parking is expensive, but our employer will provide it in our own secure car park. To access this car park again, you also have to email for permission. At some point someone noticed that staff were requesting parking in the car park, but not access to the main building. I was asked about this by the facility manager, as there was a concern that people were trying to get free parking for personal errands and not work. I explained that staff were carrying out work or collecting equipment from the store, and I'd given them permission. I was told that this was unacceptable, and only our director could give permission to access buildings. I decided the best way to prove my point was with a little malicious compliance. I did a few checks and saw that there was an almost immediate opportunity. I instructed my staff that they weren't to access the workshop/store unless they had permission. I said that I knew it was ridiculous, but I had a plan and everything would be sorted within a week. I also told them that for the next few days we would be catching up with all our mandatory training and odd jobs. I told staff if any requests for work came in to ask the customer to call back later in the week, and I would delay any new jobs being allocated for a few days. This all happened on the Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday were spent catching up on boring admin and e-learning, and then Friday arrives. I allocate jobs to staff and advise my team that if they need access to the workshop/store, then they must email for permission, and entering without consent could lead to disciplinary action. I advised that they should wait by the security desk at the main building until permission was granted. A few hours into the day I start getting emails from my staff saying they've needed access to the store and have emailed for permission, but haven't heard back. I advised that they wait. After another hour or so I get an irate phone call from the facility manager asking what's going on. I explained that my staff aren't allowed in without permission, and so they are waiting by security, so there are no allegations of them sneaking into the workshop. He asks why permission wasn't granted in advance, and I explained that the work requests had only come in on that day. He explains that the director is on leave and can't grant permission, but he could grant in his absence. I refused and said that only our director could give permission. I agreed to ask the staff to leave for home and to postpone their jobs. Monday rolled around and I got a phone call from the director. He'd received complaints from the facility manager and a few other senior managers about the situation. Thankfully, he realized how ridiculous the situation was and said he'd only agreed to keep the facility manager quiet. It was clear that I'd orchestrated the situation, but the director was willing to take the blame for the issue. The decision was reversed and now staff don't need permission. One other plus point is that I've stopped receiving email reminders about my team members' training being out of date. Sorry boss, I can't come back in, I've been drinking. A few years ago my wife was working as an EMS worker in our local township. She got home from work one night after a long day and posted a picture of herself holding an unopened beer and saying I needed this. In the picture you could tell the beer was still closed. A few minutes after she posted her picture, a major storm decided to suddenly roll through. My wife, being the good employee she was, called her supervisor and asked if he needed any help. He said no. You can't come in, you posted a picture of yourself drinking alcohol. She objected that the can wasn't opened and every idiot could see that, but he wouldn't relent, but he said something about how it could be construed wrong. Fast forward a couple of weeks, it had been a stupidly busy day for her, and when she finally got home, she ran over to the shelf that we had a bottle of whiskey on, literally tossed me her phone and said, "Quick, take a picture of me drinking this." The cap was obviously still on the bottle, but she tipped it up like she was drinking it, and she posted it online as soon as I gave the phone back. Her boss called her 10 minutes later and said, "We need you to come back in, we are short-staffed tonight." She said, "Sorry boss, I can't, I've been drinking." Check online. He tried to object that the cap was on and she said, "Last time I posted a picture like this, you wouldn't let me come in because it would set the wrong precedent. I wouldn't want to do that to you this time." Oh, we'll sign the register on time. I heard this story from my uncle. It's short, but the only malicious compliance story I can remember hearing. So ours is a third world country, and the era when this story took place was pre-computer era. My uncle worked in a bank, and in those days attendances were recorded by signing in a register. Employees had to put the in and out time in the register, as well at the start and end of their shift. Now, a bank can be very, very busy place. Hence, even though employees tended to reach office on time, they would prefer to get straight to their workstations and would sign the register whenever they got a small window in their otherwise busy schedule. This worked fine for everybody, but also benefited the latecomers/earlygoers as well. So when management got wind of this, they published a notice stating that all employees would have to first sign the register as soon as they reached office. Well, sure thing they did. The next day, there was a long line in front of the register, all the employees waiting patiently to dutifully put their signs before starting with the day's work. Everyone opened the register, slowly got to where his/her name was, signed it slowly, and then closed the register. The next person did the same. A bank normally opened at 8:30 a.m. That day, it took until 10:30 a.m. for work to kick in full capacity. Imagine the wrath of the customers. Suffice to say, the policy did not last long. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.